You're listening to Spainfully Honest, the podcast where me, Paul,
me, Catherine, talk about what it's really like living in Spain.
Each week we'll share stories, tips, and honest conversations about daily life here in Spain.
Whether you live in Spain, you're thinking about moving, or you just want to know a little bit more, you're in the right place.
So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's get Spainfully Honest. Hello, welcome to episode 9 of Spainfully Honest podcast, number 9.
Believe it.
This week we've got Paul with us, who's over there. Oh, it's nice. Brilliant. We'll be talking about buying a property in Spain, or living in properties in Spain, but on urbanizations and in cities. So slightly different. How do you know this week?
All is from Chersun Properties SL, one of the area's most established and trusted expat agencies. So thank you very much, Jacob.
Yeah, pleasure. Pleasure indeed, yeah. Thank you for inviting.
Well, we're going to have to start off with Paul. Why don't you tell everyone how your week was?
Yeah, I had an interesting week. Well, actually, it was only yesterday, but it was quite interesting. I tripped over a very small step and headbutted a very big step. But actually, it's become quite it's appropriate. Quite appropriate to this week's episode, actually, because I was in a city, obviously, which I don't live in a city. I live in sort of more of a village than a city. But the services that I received, the police came instantly. The ambulance came about 3 minutes later. And I was in hospital 10 minutes after that. So that's sort of quite important for living in a city, sort of things that you might not get if you live in the countryside. So
Where were you?
in Cartagena. And I think, Paul, you actually live quite close to there, I think.
I do indeed, yeah. It's if I'd known you'd fallen, I would have been even quicker. But virtual with around sponge and water. I'm glad you got the service that we all know that we receive in the city, especially at a time of the stress, as I can see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And obviously in the summer as well, so when I got to the hospital, it was busy, but it's so well organised. They really had it sorted. They have a system of importance, I suppose. So I think it's red if you're really ill, amber, green, and then blue if it's so really good. And you can get in fast because it was a head injury. I was classed as urgent to start off with.
Yes.
Once it's in me the first time, it's slowed down a little bit, but very, very good. Really, really impressive. I was sent over an email thanking them all. It's important. Most of the time, see them a lot on social media, everything's slagging everything off.
Yeah.
That's right.
But, when something's done, all right, it's like Roy Keane, he'd say, I'm just doing the job, I'm doing a house exit. But that's what he's saying. But there's ways that you can do your job, isn't there? And they did their job really well. So you have to thank people. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I've had experience living in the countryside as well. And obviously, the reaction time is going to be longer at the beginning, but the service once you get to the place, the hospital or the medical sector, I've never had a problem. I think it's always been brilliant. But it's good to know if you're coming over here, the experience is a good one, I think. Yeah. But anyway, let's continue. What is your history of being in Spain? Why you're here and what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, my background is I used to play professional football in Scotland and started off at Hearts, St Johnstone, Inverness, Cardoon and Thistle. Anyway, I played football also along with my wife Nicola, had a financial services business in Perth in Scotland. So we decided to come over to Spain, maybe about 24 years ago, to look at properties. And we found an off-plan property on my Menorca resort, which was one of the first major development in the Murcia region through Polaris World. Yeah, developer. So initially bought that property, waited 2.5 years for it to be built, which was fine. And near the time of it being finished, my wife Nicola said, "Fine, don't move over with our daughter, who's 12 years old, Suzanne." We had 2 sons, we still have, thankfully, Nick and Christopher, who were 17 and 20. They didn't want to come over. We came over. We got Suzanne into an international school in Murcia, El Liminar, which is a top school. And we ran the financial services business from Spain. So I was flying back every 4 weeks for 4 days and seeing our financial services clients, a bit like an all-round worker, if you like, working on itself and getting back to the sunshine here in the Murcia region. So gradually we were getting a lot of inquiries from our financial services clients and through friends and work colleagues asked me about buying properties in Spain, and hence the reason we were here. So we had our ear to the ground and we could recommend areas to consider, etc. Now, at the time, Polaris World were selling, as you will know, thousands of properties that you, former company, furnished.
Yeah.
Is that at the time, Polaris World did not have a market for selling on the resales or selling on contracts. Yet investors had purchased numerous properties. So what myself and Nicola, my wife, did, we said, well, there's an opportunity here. We've got the financial services business, so we've got an income stream. But why don't we set up a website for the resales? Because there is no market for people to sell either a contract of a Polaris property or a key-ready Polaris property. So we set up a website, PolarisWorldPropertyResales.com. And that just went stupid because we were getting 500,000 hits a month.
Yeah.
Via
A lot of people don't want to wait, do they? You know, they want an exciting, they always say like football players, they love these best cars, but they don't want to wait, do they? They want it as soon as it's out.
And that's a fact, you know, that, a lot of the people that maybe had the property and it's fee ready, maybe circumstances have changed, they want to flip the contract, if you like, make some money. So we had a marketplace there and I'm not embarrassed, but we were riding on the back of Polaris World's £20 million a year advertising budget.
Yeah, of course.
So we became very, very busy with the real estate business, Chersun Properties, that had that website, that we then sold the financial services business because I wasn't getting back to service my clients.
Yeah.
And a value decreases in value if you ain't giving a good service. So to cut a long story short, that's 20 years we've been in business, which I'm really proud of because in the property market, particularly in Spain, there's a lot of cycles. It's very at the top, but it ain't so good when you're at the bottom, and we survive these cycles. And that's down to providing clients good service and good, honest advice.
Yeah. I mean, the two massive ones, I mean, our businesses are related in that respect, weren't they? Brexit and then COVID, they were massive. I mean, they were massive to our type of business at that time. And to get through them, that's definitely brilliant.
Yeah, I think as well is that in any business, when things are going really well and there's money coming into your business account, the most important thing is keeping that money, or a fair chunk of it, in your account. Because believe me, in the property game, or most businesses, there are times that you're going to have to dip into your savings. And that's what we did. We never got carried away buying the flashy cars, and they're Rolexes. Yeah. We wanted to be in this in the long term, and we're still here.
It's nice how it all kind of came about organically like that, wasn't it? It just kind of very naturally transitioned from one thing into another. Well, that's how it sounded like, at least how you said it.
I think real estate, real estate is about property. But what I would say is more important is relationships.
100%.
Because when people buy a property, they're investing the largest amount of money that they will ever invest. And that's in a property. So, for clients or potential clients, they want to feel confident because it's an emotional thing.
I was just going to say, financial and it's emotional, isn't it?
Yeah. So, that's where, we've kept it, myself, my wife Nicola, my daughter Suzanne, we've just kept it as a small business, but I know we can control it. We can provide our clients with services that are more personal than the bigger agencies who are money, and you're just a number.
We have quite loads of people that are not doing it for the right reason. When you're doing it for their reason, they're not doing it for the reason they're selling to the customer. Yeah. We did it with furniture. People like, when I speak to other people in businesses, they say, why do you do? I would say to somebody, I'm not selling you furniture yet because you're not in the right situation. Don't buy your furniture now. Wait while the rest of the first 2 or 3 bricks have gone down. They were buying furniture or a house in the minimum field that's potentially could be 5 years away. Why are you buying furniture? Then just wait, come back and see us near the time. I think people appreciate that. When you're genuinely being honest. I'm not trying to just take you on there. I want it to be right for you. And the number of those people that came back wasn't far off 100%, but the number that came back buying something different or a different location or for a different reason was a lot. You know, they totally understand why you've done it. And the same with you, with your, you know, you potentially at the beginning with selling sort of properties that are key ready. Those people have a thing in their mind that they want to see the physical thing, don't they? They're the more nervous buyers than some of them that have just got loads of money and just put a deposit down, don't they? So yeah, no, it's very good.
I think as well, you touched it right in the head of the nail there, is that a lot of it is down to timing. Now, I'll give you a great example of this, right? We had a client who purchased a property last year on Marmino Golf Resort, in fact. And so I actually said to my daughter, Suzanne, I says, can you check, Suzanne, where that client came from? Where was it advertised? So she checked it. She said, Dad, you're not going to believe. Says that client made an inquiry through Rightmove 12 years ago. Wow. Yeah. She said, we had sent him over 2,000 emails and he had opened 80% of 2,000 emails. So I thought, wow, what was the problem? So the next time I spoke to him, I said, do you realise it took you 12 years? I says, I never hurried you. But it took you 12 years to find your property in the sun. I says, what was the reason actually? He says, well, Paul, he says, I'll be honest. He said, I got divorced last year. And my wife at the time never wanted to buy. But that was always my dream. So there goes another point that you've got to respect people's timings. Because when somebody makes an inquiry, the first inquiry is a fact find. And it's providing the clients, the people, the more information you can provide them over 2 months, 2 years or 20 years builds up their confidence to do something. So never disregard a client that's maybe not replied to an email after the first inquiry. What we always do is we always honour, get the permissions from the clients, but keep them updated with, not about properties, but just generally living in Spain.
Yeah.
Because that's the full package. That's what people are buying into.
Yeah. I mean, that was totally our reason for doing this, because most of the time on social media, the people that are on there are negative people. They've had problems. Because if something's good, you don't sort of put it on, do you? You don't mention it, no. Right. And so if you are a new person looking to come to Spain, and you go on that website, you go on with thinking, it's fantastic. By the time you come off, see if I can be Harry Carriage, because it's stuff that's happening. So, to be kept updated is really important.
Yeah, and about Spain, but you're right, that's what people want. That's that dream of moving to Spain, isn't it? It's not just about the property, it's about property being their dream of being in Spain, it's personal.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that all the people who buy in Spain, it's the lifestyle they're purchasing. And that's one of the things that I say to clients straight away. If you look at investment, don't really look at Spain, because especially if you're British, if you're looking at investment to rent out, it's not as profitable now because of the tax, which is something that can be discussed later. But I always say, first thing first is buy it as a lifestyle purchase. And if you can cover your costs, happy days, but buy it as a lifestyle, because that's the most important thing, and that's what Spain provides you.
I was just going to say then, we had a couple of questions. So the main one was, what do you think are the main considerations people should take into account when deciding on, and we have urban property, but you can tell us urban, coastal, or whatever you want to tell us.
Yeah. I think the most important thing for somebody is to do our wish list. And what the most important things that they're looking for, because the most important thing with any property purchase anywhere in the world is location. Because location you cannot change unless you've got a car. But when you've got a property, it's all about picking the right location. And the way that you'll find out about what location suits you is by maybe coming over 2, 3, 4 times, 10 times and then narrowing down. So
And it's the location for you, isn't it? Like my location and your location could be totally different things, but it doesn't mean mine's wrong or yours wrong. It's just the location for you, what you want. And
it's so true, So that's whenever somebody is making an inquiry or coming over what we term as an exploration trip or a viewing trip, is that you listen to what the people are wanting, and then you save them time, because I know listening what areas will suit that person. If there's somebody coming over, I think needle haystack is a phrase, and that's exactly what it's like. If somebody's coming over,
it's wasting your time on their time if you don't know to help them, isn't it?
Exactly.
People might think they know where they want to live, but then from experience now of actually they think they want to live there, but they're probably going to prefer this,
That is very, very true. That happens a number of times. People come over and they eventually buy somewhere that they never even knew about. But that's where when you have somebody that has the experience and knows the different areas, I could pigeonhole listening.
I just listen to what they want.
That's the key, is listening, is to listen to what somebody wants. Because if you don't listen, it's like the furniture shop. Somebody comes in and wants a leather suite, but you're giving them a completely different material. You ain't getting a sale.
Or if you do get a sale, they're not going to be happy with it, because it's not around. We had a classic one we always used to have, is people coming in and saying, I want a sofa bed for the lounge because my 2 grandkids are going to be coming over 2 weeks of the year. And the classic response to that was, so for 50 weeks of the year, you're going to sit on something uncomfortable. Because for 2 weeks, 2 kids are going to come and sit in their lounge on holiday, go to bed at 7 o'clock, and you won't be able to make any noise in that lounge. So you'd say, buy a normal sofa, which will save you X number of euros, and buy a blower. You can be put at the side in the second bedroom so they can go to sleep anytime they want, doesn't matter. You're so comfortable for 50 weeks of the year sitting on a comfortable sofa. Then I go, yeah. And you actually, it's probably €500 less. So you're actually selling them something cheaper. And once you've done that, they trust you. And because it's right.
Yeah. But then you have people coming in looking for those natural leather sofas.
Yeah.
They had a little with the pool, the kids are going to be coming from the chlorine sitting on that leather. You knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Lads would always tell them, it was a more expensive sofa, but the nice thing to do, or the right thing to do, was say, listen, probably not going to be Chersun Properties if you're going to buy.
It's not actually when they first started, when they first took over, we told the UK we're not having natural sofas in store. Because it was actually when Urban came out and natural leather, the sort of the suede type leather was a big thing. So you put your sunscreen on your child, and you say you have to sit inside for 20 minutes while it's outside. They would totally wreck that sofa in 5 minutes. Absolutely wrecking, and it's not terrible, and it's not under guarantee because it's effectively misuse. And so I said to the UK, we're not having them, and they were like, it's our best selling ranges. I'm sorry, we're not.
Yeah.
And we didn't somebody insisted, and we got one for somebody, and it was wrecked. It was wrecked before it was delivered because the lads delivering it were hot and sweaty. And
Yes.
Just by mistake, they touched it, tried to carry it, and I haven't come mark on it, couldn't get it off.
People, again, it's my. I'm not going to furniture, but it's not how much the Liechtenstein is totally different with the furniture that you're buying as well. So don't think about how much you're sweating or how dusty it is. But yeah, so again, back to what you were saying, it's so important to actually listen to the customers to think, what kind of lifestyle I'm actually going to have. So what property is actually going to suit the lifestyle that they want when they move to Spain? Yeah, it's super important, isn't it?
And they have to think, you have to make them think that for themselves, because you don't know them well when you can ask them questions, but they have to start questioning themselves and changing their ideas. Yeah. Are there any significant differences? So because last week we had Fiona who was talking about country properties and coastal. Yes. Are there any significant differences, like legalities or costs as well, for like a golf resort, urbanisation type place, or a city?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the difference between I'll say a golf resort community or complex compared to a city apartment is that the costs are more expensive on a golf resort purely down to the biggest cost is 24-hour security.
Yeah.
So when you are on a golf resort, most of them will have the 24-hour security. So that has to be paid by the community, the residents.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got an apartment, you live in the city of Cartagena. Now, as a comparison, say a 2-bedroom apartment in a golf resort, community fees will be in the region of between 150 to 200 euros per month. Whereas if you're in a city apartment, you've only got the maintenance, you've got 24-hour security, you've only got the maintenance of the lift and the cleaning of this communal stairwell. So community fees will be 30 euros.
There's a big difference.
There is a big difference, and that's one of the things that's really important for potential buyers, is to always find out before you sign anything and you have this the lovely property, you think this is the one. One of the most important things is to find out what the community fees are before you commit.
Yeah.
Because you can't escape from community fees. Community fees are payable. Every owner of a property has to pay a community fee, and the cost will depend on the type of property it is.
And the age as well, because I've noticed that in the one I'm in, mine in 1980s now. And so they've started, I'm sure they've done it before, but they've started to do some repairs. They did some outside repairs and you have to contribute to that. You have to pay your 1/27th of whatever, even though, it was to do the whole block and my little bit needed a bit doing, but I still had to pay my 1/27th of the work, So you have to bear that in mind as well, don't you? And I suppose on a golf resort, the newer properties, so they're less likely to need as much now, but in the future, you've still got to bear it in mind. If you start painting blocks and things, you might have to contribute to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Look, community fees on the golf resort properties are more expensive, so you've got to factor that into your monthly running costs. Make sure you can afford, because there's no point having this lovely property you can't afford the flights to come and use.
Yeah.
So, and everyone that's got a property on the resorts, they're aware of the fees. And the bottom line is that if you want the resort to remain, the communal areas to remain, pristine, and the apartment block to look brand new all the time, is that you've got to pay that. Yeah. So that's one of the things, is that you've got to compare what you want to pay in running costs.
And how do you think about it? Because when you're listening to all the payments separately, you want this place in Spain, you think, oh, it'll be fine, we can do it. They don't actually sit down and add up actually what is that total cost. You have to put your head on for just for a few minutes, don't you?
Yeah, it's and that's the thing, is that I always give clients to say, like, this is an approximate annual cost. Community fees, maybe your house and home insurance, your utility bill. So as a rough example, for a 2-bedroom apartment on a golf resort, you're maybe €5,000 a year.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure you can afford that €5,000 a year without renting the property.
So that would include, so that's in community charges, are you talking utilities as well?
Utilities, electric, water, home insurance, Wi-Fi if it's not already in the community fees. So it's really important to find out what the running costs are before you commit, because there are some communities within some of the larger resorts, and small community within a large resort may have, for example, an indoor heated swimming pool and a gym in that community, and their community fees could be 300 to 400 euros per month. That's a mortgage.
Yeah.
So you've always got to ask the question. It costs nothing to ask the question, because it'll save you money in the long term. Community fees are less in cities, apartment blocks, compared to gated with 24-hour security.
One thing with the city ones that I think is essential and is different to the golf one is parking. You have to build that into your cost, don't you? If you're in the city and you've got a car, you have to account for that. Might be additional rental in the garage, or buying a garage rather than, which you don't usually have to do on the resort, let's say, because if the bigger houses might have a garage, but there's no street parking and stuff.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, because on the golf resort, then 9 times out of 10 there'll either be underground private car parking, which is included with the purchase of the property, or there's enough external parking as well. So generally, if you're in a golf resort, you ain't worrying about getting changed to pay for the parking. Whereas if you are in a city, we live in a city which has car parking for one, which is fine, but we've got 2 cars. So we're paying €110 per month for the extra car parking space.
So have you got another one in the same garage, or is it somewhere else?
It's somewhere else, yeah. So it's not that convenient, especially I've got an electric car and running in and then down to the car park to discharge it and whatever. So, that is a big plus if you're on a golf resort. If you've got your car, then you're not paying for that, but you're paying for it in a way through the community fees.
Yeah,
It's always going to be, isn't it? It's always like some, where they want to call it a sacrifice or something. If you want to live in the city, well, you have to deal with it.
That's
If
right.
you don't want to worry about all those kind of things, and you want your security, whether you go to a resort, but you're paying for that.
if you buy a property on a I keep calling resort, on a resort,
Yes.
or in a city, are there any differences about what you can do to the property? And how you can change it, extend it, change the colour. Is that affected, or is it your property, do what you want, sort of thing?
Well, in Spain, if you are part of a community, so on a golf resort, that is a community. So you have what's known as the statute of community rules and regulations. So if you're making any alteration to a property externally, then you will need the permission from the community of owners. So, whereas if you bought a property and it was maybe in an individual property at the coast, there is no community there. So if you want to have, red, white and blue awnings or a pergola, or you can do that because there is no rules and regulations, because that is an individual property. So one of the important things to consider if you are buying in a resort is that, and if you want to make alterations, whether it was maybe making an extension to a property, the first port of call would be the administrators of the community to say to them, look, this is what I'm proposing to do. Will this be allowed? In a roundabout way, it is a good thing because it stops people building a solar farm on the roof, that will decrease the value of every property in that community.
You can see it when I go to some of the older areas around here where it was something. If you look at the row and it's on different colours and there's some got sheds on the roof and they look a mess, don't they? And you go somewhere else where it's obviously controlled and certain people won't like it, but they look so much better when they're all uniform. Because sometimes they have where you can change the colour, but there's only a choice of 3 colours. It has to be the exact Pantone colour and everything to match, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But again, it's right.
Yeah. And again, it's you then will choose if that's something that you like or something that you don't like. Now, I want to be able to paint the tricolor at the front of my house. I want to look beautiful and all the same. And you choose what's right for you.
Well, that's the thing, and I think, if you are buying on a resort, what's a good thing is maybe even to ask your lawyer to see if they can get a hold of the statutes and the regulations so that you know what you are allowed to do before you commit. Instead of buying a property at, 100 or €1 million and thinking, well, I want to put a garage, but I'm not allowed to. So it's, people have choices, and that's the thing is you make the choice. And if it's right for you, then buy that property that you can do what you wish to do to it.
And then you always see that thing about, I don't know if it's like an American thing or something, but how they had to measure the height of the grass and everything. Is it strict like that, or is it not quite to that level?
No, not quite like that. But, the reason there aren't these rules and regulations is to maintain a uniform, appearance to the resort and also the properties.
Yeah.
And generally, as Paul quite rightly mentioned, it's nice when you see something, all the same, nice and clean, etc. Because it's adding value.
Yeah.
And as we said earlier, people invest a lot of money in property. You want to add value. You don't want value being decreased by your next door neighbour doing something that they shouldn't have done.
Yeah. And also, in the Polaris ones, I know for sure, but that community charge includes the garden as well, doesn't it? So they do all the grass and everything. So even on your property, don't they, at the front and everything. So you do get that uniformity. That's something that if you're not coming once every 2 weeks, you'll have to pay somebody else to do. Or you'll arrive and it'll be 4-foot grass and then you'll spend 2 weeks doing your gardening, you know, rather than in the house. It is a cost, but it's something you would have to pay for if you didn't pay them to do it. So it's from these bounding money.
And that's a really good point, because, you know, the fact that the community are taking care of the gardening is the way it should be, because a lot of these properties, the majority will be holiday homes, and, you know, be nothing less. Yeah. You've got your lovely lawn that looks like Wembley, and you've got something that is a Marshall next door with overgrown money's a crucial going on. So that's the big plus point of being on the resorts, is that these things can be controlled by.
I had a country property, and I got to a stage where if it didn't die in between the two visits, then those were all right. If they died, they weren't the right funds. Because that was so my philosophy. We had a lot of olives. They were like asses. But, you know, don't wait when you got them. There are some plants that converse this about anything, which I've found out. I don't know which ones they are. The ones down the middle of the motorway, those ones, they are bulletproof. Them pots. They aren't quite useless, but bulletproof.
They are the SAS of planning. They're not beautiful. Give me more sun, more sun. No,
Give me water full of time I can pick and do that. They're amazing. The ones up from Torrevieja to the airport, to Alicante airport, down the middle there, are amazing when they're in full bloom.
Can I actually give the viewers a tip, right? Now, this happened to me a few weeks ago, and I'm fortunate that I'm here to tell this story. There were the gardeners on the motorway were doing the middle, where the trees and the plants are, right? So they're strimming away, and I'm driving along. The next minute, all I hear is bang, and the back window hit, just next to my driving, shattered. Yeah. And what had happened was that one of the strimmers, had obviously a stone had flown up through the smashed the window. Luckily, it was shattered. But I've got an electric car, right? Now, generally, because I'm a Scotsman, I don't like using too much electric.
So you going 10 on that?
So if I had actually had my window down when I'm driving, and that had happened with a stone bullet, and I wouldn't be here to tell the story. So make that be out. Whenever you see that there's a sign that says gardeners, and whenever you're going along the motorway, make sure your windows are up.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know that strimmers and tractors, you know. So there
It's Spainfully Honest. You know, to get belt tagged down there.
At least tip for you.
Either that or maybe a big old helmet drafting, you look.
Well, linking into kind of what we were talking about before, that was, we were talking, as we were talking about more rural properties last week, there was a lot of conversation about the things that you need to have, you know, water, electricity, Wi-Fi, all that kind of stuff. Now, I would automatically think that if you're buying something in a resort, all of that would already be set up and ready to go. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. Yeah, if you're in a resort, then you know the water, electric, there will be Wi-Fi available. Sometimes the Wi-Fi is included in the community phase. One of the things that I would recommend for anyone that's buying a brand new property, and this isn't just on resorts, this is anywhere. Whenever you buy a brand new property and you sign for the property at the notaries and you get the keys, what I always recommend to all our clients is don't actually expect to stay in the property with all the utilities connected the day that you get the keys. The reason being, when it's a brand new property, is that the water and the electric will not be connected, because the lawyers, if you've got a good lawyer, they will arrange with the utility companies to connect the meter for your water and electric. So the tip is basically, don't fly over to complete. Get your lawyer if they've done power of attorney, and then your lawyer can then tell you when everything's connected, because it's a bit of a, really very nice, you've got your bottle of champagne and you've got your keys and you're taking your wife and your partner over the front door, and there's no water. That's
Hearing that loads of times, and people saying, I came over to move into my new property, but we've had to go to a hotel, or we've had to get rent an apartment for a week or something because of that very reason.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In some of the golf resorts as well, or some other resorts, they do have gas, don't they? Have natural gas, I don't use natural gas. But in a lot of other places, you don't have gas here. I don't have gas here. You have gas here? I think that's how it's far, but we don't have gas.
Yeah. I think when it's particularly the Polaris World resorts, will be 6 resorts, 3,000 properties. So what they did is they put, I'll say, gas in the properties. It was fine, more so for the heating in the winter time. Now, in this area, the Murcia region of Spain, we don't have harsh winters, particularly if you're within 20 minutes of the coast. If you're further inland, you do get snow and ice.
Yeah.
Further inland, but the gas central heating, it's not really, as common as it would be in the UK or Ireland or Northern Europe.
I said, well, I got the gas here, and we know it's a bit different with the damp in the house. Another question that we did have was, what are the main considerations you should take into account if you really fancy a city property?
I think, living in a city appeals to people that want everything on their doorstep. We've lived in Cartagena, a beautiful city, which I would recommend. Very historic, beautiful restaurants, bars, etc. Marina. In fact, they're fixing a step of the leads. They're fixing a step in Cartagena just now.
It's been there 2,817 years, and now it's got a big dent in it.
Even the road is in the cost that much time is down in Cartagena. But to get back to the benefits of the pros and cons of living in a city, the benefits is that you've got everything within walking distance. The downside, I would say, is maybe lack of outdoor space, such as terraces or having a garden, etc. If you're really fortunate, or if you've got a nice budget, you can have a lovely penthouse that has maybe a roof terrace solarium. But what you tend to find when you live in a city is the city is your garden. You tend to, for myself and my wife Nicola, we'll go out and we'll sit at a cafe, sit at a bar, we'll sit down at the marina. Lovely view. Cost you nothing.
Yeah, now into Trinidad.
And so, I think it really depends on what people are after. You tend to find that cities maybe don't appeal as much to families because, I've got a couple of granddaughters that live in the city not far from us, and you've got sitting out on the bikes or to a park area, they haven't got a garden. So that's the downside. So I think for cities, it would be for professional couples that want somewhere that everything is within easy reach. And if you want to go and spend the day at the beach, you go in the car.
And that's real lock and lead, isn't it? You literally could walk out, go home, come back, and it'd be exactly the same as it was to be walked out. So you've got no thoughts when you're not there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then that's not even to the UK, really, is it? Wherever if you like cities or you don't.
Yeah. Thing as well, I think what's nice is that, when you are in a city, you're engrossed with it's Spanish. And it's a different culture now. Talking about cruise ships, in Cartagena, 160 cruise ships coming. It's not the same sitting next to, I hate to say this, right, sitting next to a few British getting drunk on the cheap drink. Whereas when you're sitting next to a Spanish family and they're chatting away. The kids are playing on it's a different culture. You're not looking over your shoulder when we go back to Scotland. If you go out in the evening, you're looking over your shoulder thinking, who's behind me? Whereas here, it's just a really nice culture, safe, and as you mentioned earlier, the likes of the police, the services. If there was an issue, they are there within minutes.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So I'd recommend if you're maybe somebody that's just wanting an easier life, that everything is on your doorstep. You haven't got to worry about getting it on or the gas or the summer, and it's a lock up where you go. And when you are in a city, generally the majority of people live in there full time. So you know that if you've got a holiday home, your next door neighbour is probably somebody that's living there 24/7. Yeah. So that gives you the bit of
The other thing as well with it in Spain is there are some big cities that are on the coast. Like Sunny, the Barcelona and Valencia and the Cartagena, put on the coast now, Almeria, Malaga. They're all big cities, but actually right on the coast.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of the best of both worlds there, rather than me talking along.
Yeah.
You've still got the beach and the sea and stuff if you want to.
Yeah, I used to live in Madrid, and personally, I much prefer city living.
yes.
But I have family, so I kind of chose this area for everyone, But I love the idea of living. I love living in a city. I know it's brilliant. So that just been it. As you say, you do just go out, don't you? You go out more, I think, when you're in the middle of the city. Everything to do on the doorstep.
Yeah. It's just a different, we also have a villa on a golf resort with a swimming pool, etc., which is great to escape because, in a city at this time of year, generally, even though we're on the coast, generally it's quite hot. So it's lovely to, we're very fortunate that, we can go to the place with the pool and, and it's for the family, we can have the family barbecues there. But you couldn't do that in an apartment on a 4 square metre apartment. You'd probably get bomberos if I ever been in Cartagena City. So, it's, there's pros and cons. And that's why listen to your clients. You might have 3-year-olds and 8-year-olds and babies. You think a resort is perfect for you because you've got everything there. There's pros and cons for listening to what the clients want.
You said, sorry, just so you're, because we live in Cartagena, it's right, just noise level. Do you think, what's it like? How noisy is it? Do you think living in a city?
The thing is, what you find is that bedrooms tend to be at the back of the properties, and the lounge areas are maybe a 1 bedroom is facing onto the main. So I'll give you a perfect example you see about noise, right? Because we live in one of the main streets, Cayetana in Cartagena, which is for all the processions. So Easter time, which is unbelievable. Recommend it to anyone to go to Cartagena for Easter. The parades are something you would never see elsewhere. But there's 7 or 8 days of drums. So the noise is unbearable. And then in September we have the Romanos Cartagenarians, which is a great festival. The Romans, Cartagenarians, the noise is unbelievable. It just gives you the atmosphere. But, I'm a keen cyclist. I'll go out on a Saturday morning at 7:30 and you'll see 6 Romans coming there. So I've had a few drinks and been at the Roman camp, but it's just a different culture. If you imagine that in Manchester, right, if I glass 6 Romans with swords, it could be danger, so. But yeah, there's it's like anything. You get engrossed, you take part in within the culture. So the noise is you're part of the noise.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
Yeah. And because the thing is, the dates of it. So, like your situation, if you thought can't deal with that with your other property, my mother's talking about it again because there's a few days in the middle of July You know, it's bad. The fireworks start at 8 in the morning, and she's just saying, in then 3 days, I'm just going to go, I'm going to book to go away for a couple of days. It's for a dog. Don't sex a dog. And so, but she knows, it's going to be next year on the 16th of July, and she's going to book a couple of days. It's not random noise, is it? It's not like a, guy with all the bar. It's just happens. Right?
That's very true. The fact is, the dates. I know whenever at Easter, it's very busy, the Carthagenarians, but you don't want to dip in, but you've got the option of dipping out.
Yeah. And the thing is, when it is unofficial, if you call the police, they will be there in minutes and they will stop it, won't they? If somebody's walking around lighting fireworks off on a different day at 12 o'clock at night, they will get stopped.
That's another thing as well. You're talking about the safety, the security, etc. So, I recommend to anyone that, don't get drunk in a city and say that you start arguing with the police. I remember a client, he told me, he was at Alicante Airport. He was a young guy, teenager, British guy, was walking, to departures, no shoes on, bored, around his feet. So he stopped, says, "What happened to you?" The young guy, fair news to him, he says, "I was out a lot." He says, "Last night was my last night, my holiday. I had too much to drink, and I got into a bit of a fight. And so the police came, and they picked me up. They put me in the back of their van, and then they took me away into the country, took my shoes off me, and said, 'Right, on you go. You'll not be causing any more trouble in Spain in the future, will you?'" No.
I've heard stories like that, and I've heard it be more of a Russian concept, but Guardia Civil.
Yes,
the green ones.
Yeah, the green one.
Tend to be the local for the Nacional, because it's 3 different types of police.
Right.
You've got your local police, you've got Guardia Civil, the green ones, and you've got the Policía Nacional, so they're the white ones. So they're usually more in the cities and stuff, and that tend to be on the coasts and towns. You tend to get Guardia Civil more on the coasts and town. And the Guardia Civil, let's just say, they're the ones with the least plate.
That's very true.
Well, if you see all mess with it.
Don't. Honestly, don't.
I was in Benidorm once on holiday, and this lad, drunk. There's a street in Benidorm, way down Benidorm, Bar Street. It's full of English bar, and this lad had a fluorescent green mankini, only just on. Let's say there was things hanging out, and he came running out of Bar Street into like the main street. And I was talking to a shop and buying something. The shop lady picked a phone up and she rang the police straight away. And the police, we didn't seconds. And it felt like seconds. The police said he grabbed it. And I felt a little bit sorry for him because he was drunk. You weren't really doing anything wrong. They running about with his bits hanging out. But it was great what they did. They effectively got him. They shouted at him.
Yes.
Then they just took him back into Bar Street. Like they pushed him back in and said, this area is for you, what happened to don't come into this bit. And I thought, that's proper policing. Like, if they'd done it again, it might have been a different story. But, the story wasn't, aggressive or anything. It was just almost like having a laugh, I just thought, that's really good policing. Push him back in. You do that in that street, that's what that's been.
Because like in Spain, at like midnight, even 1 o'clock in the morning, you still have the kids out and about, all those people going for walks. They don't want to be seen.
Do you think there's we talked about the 2 types of properties, so resort properties and city properties. City ones probably only different, but resorts. Is there a better time to go looking at properties to give yourself a real feel of what it should be like, what it's going to be like?
Well, the thing in Spain, generally, we don't really have a season for selling properties. It's not like, Easter, put your property on the market,
Yeah.
So generally, what I always recommend is that it's quite good for people maybe to avoid August, because August is busy, especially coastal. Also, the heat is a bit hot. So I would say if you are looking to buy property or come over on an inspection trip or viewing or whatever, avoid August. But come over maybe in October, even in January, February. The reason being, if you come over at these times, it shows you what the temperature and the climate's like.
Yeah.
And October is absolutely the best. It's like 24, as you all know. So it's nice to compare what the temperature is in the UK or Ireland or Belgium. And so it's better to come over at these times, a bit quieter, but it also shows you what a particular area is like in the off season. because you know and I know there's areas in Spain, particularly the coastal towns, that in August are absolutely jumping. You know, atmosphere's brilliant, party fiestas. But if you were coming over in January, you'd probably see a greyhound walk down the road in tumbleweed because everything's closed. So it's nice to see what areas are like in the quieter seasons, because most of the clients that we deal with are Northern European. So Northern European primarily want to buy a place in the sun for the winter. You want to come over in the winter and be able to walk to bars, restaurants, supermarkets, amenities are open. That's important.
Yeah. And you can try different times. You can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just out of the season is quite good to see what a place is like out of season, because there's always in the seasons, July and August, there are all the places that in the coast.
I've got a couple of friends looking for somewhere now in this area, and they said, oh, they came in June and we're going to come in August because we believe it's really hot. And I said, it is hot. You do not have to come in August to realise it's really hot. I promise you, it's hot. If it's going to cost you a fortune, you'll struggle to find somewhere to stay. You know, it's busier, but not much busier than it was in June, because they were here in the last week, which is when the school holidays start. So it's a little busy as well. So it'll be a little bit busier, but it's going to be hot. So once you know that, don't waste £2,000 coming in August. No, leave it until September, October, like you said. And for me, I think May and October are the best months in Spain, in this area anyway. The temperature's perfect, mid-20s. Particularly in May as well, if you're going inland, everything's green and, you know, it's the nicest time to.
I would say even living in Madrid, I loved those times of years there as well, because it's the same thing as you're saying about how hot it is in the cities. Everyone just leaves. Madrid is practically empty. And although I was reading an article this year saying that it's starting to change a little bit, like there was more life in the cities this summer for some reason. But anyway, usually they're quite quiet, and you could go up and someone will just have a poster where there's usually a bar or a restaurant will be closed until the 1st of September, and they won't be there for July at all.
They've started doing a lot of museums and things for free, haven't they? In July and August and Christmas.
And they were saying Murcia City, they would usually have an occupation of the hotels of about 37% in the summer, or the ones to the coast.
That's right.
But this year it's closer to 50-60% because more people have been going to Murcia City for shorter stays. But still, it's good to see that, isn't it? That people checking out more areas.
The people I've been speaking to on the cruises, they love Cartagena. Yes, a lot of them have said that it's their favourite port on the cruise that was there. Yeah, because it's everything's so close. Compliment it on how clean it is and how well it's looked after, which is good. Yeah. And the number of people, I've sort of advised, they said, well, why don't you come back for a long weekend? Fly into Murcia Airport, taxis at Murcia Airport, and Murcia Airport's been given the municipal boundary of the city, so the taxis are cheaper than they would be for that distance, because it's classed as being in the city. They did it intentionally, so that they reduce taxi. So to get into the city would be €20, and then 2 nights there, a break, well, a very short break.
I mean, imagine getting off a cruise. I don't know how many places this would happen in, and having the Rowan Theatre just there to go visit. I mean, usually when you get up to 4 towns, this might be shops and restaurants, but there's not maybe much else. You kind of have to maybe go more inland or travel a little bit to be interested in it.
And how many places could you get up and see a lad from there, they blink in the street? It's not many, isn't it? Experience and just talk about it next.
No, so there's that jump.
There's that smashed at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Because I went down there yesterday and they've still got the white marking. They're that your chocolate.
That's it. I'm not because there's another story for a casual coffee. It was nothing faulty with this.
And then just another thing I was thinking about there, and actually get a question about it as well, is it just as straightforward if you want to rent out properties in the city as it would be? Or what, maybe talk about the comparison if you want to rent out a property in a resort or in the city, what would that be like? Difficult or easier?
Well, due to the change in the regulations in April there for short-term rentals, and even this is happening in the cities, because if you have a block in Cartagena, as an example, if 60% of the owners in that community vote against short-term rentals, then you won't be allowed to rent out that apartment short-term. So that's why it's really important, if you are looking to buy a property in the city, is find out if that apartment block, the community will allow short-term. Because if you won't, then unfortunately you can't advertise it on your usual Airbnb or your booking.coms. So, I know in our block, they voted against short-term rentals because the people live there full-time. Yeah. And likewise, if you're buying on a golf resort, again, the rules and regulations are the same, is that you make sure that you're allowed to rent short-term, because within a golf resort, there may be different communities.
Yeah. And it could even be individual between the individual communities, couldn't it?
Exactly. So these are things that are really important for people that are looking to buy a property, that are looking to get an income stream by renting it out. Is you want to make sure that you have the option to rent it, because if you don't, then your income stream that you thought you were going to get is zero. So it's really important nowadays to find all that information out. It's like we've got properties for sale on coastal properties, but these communities voted against short-term rentals. So somebody doesn't, we highlight that in the advertisement, this property is not suitable for short-term rentals. So it saves my time, it saves somebody else looking up, well, that looks lovely, and then finding out the chance.
So in a normal circumstance then, who would find that out? Would it be the agent that find that out, or would it be your lawyer? If you're buying them,
I would say the agent should really, because when you're, as an agent, a real estate agent, whenever I'm listing a property, it's up to me to provide the correct information in my property listings.
Yeah.
So I would be asking the question to the seller: has this community got have you got the right to rent out short term? If not, has there been a vote? Because there has to be a vote, and they maybe not had the vote yet.
So it's all a little bit up in the air.
It is.
Having this conversation in 3 years' time, I think it'd be a lot more straightforward, wouldn't it? That virtually everywhere would be established as yes or no, and you'd know it. Whereas now there's still quite a lot, even on the golf resorts, that still haven't had that vote yet, have they? So nobody really knows. So it's a bit awkward anymore.
Yeah.
As time progresses, whether you like it or not, you'll know one way or the other.
That's right. I think that it really affects the people that are buying that want to rent out short term. Whereas you've got people that are buying the holiday home for the family. So as long as you're not advertising it on the main property portals, but you can say to your brother and his family, you want to rent my stay in the property, pay me some money to cover the cost. That's not an issue, because the thing with that is the owner can police who's going there.
Yeah.
They know that it's their teenager son and his girlfriend that are going. They know that it's their brother or sister or their mother or father. And if they get a bit rowdy, then they can police that. Yeah. Whereas you don't know, maybe somebody rented out through Airbnb apartment for 4 and there's 8 people arrive in a minibus.
Yeah.
That ain't good. That ain't good for the neighbours.
And it's good to highlight that distinction, because people will be wondering about that actually.
No, it's particularly about it's everywhere and all over Facebook.
I
think it's more the uncertainty of it, and the uncertainty of the control of the voting and everything is as much of it. If that once that gets sorted, and for me, I think it's a good thing. I don't mean it's a good thing for people not being able to short-term life. I think the policing of it is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, these resorts were set up as for holiday rental, and we could have that. You could argue about what's right or wrong, but as a resort, we've seen that. You've seen it as well as I. If a resort is being used with people coming over on holiday. What they're doing in the restaurants and bars on the resort, spending money. Now, we've lived on resorts, and if you live in a resort full time, you ain't going to the bars and the restaurants on the resort 7 nights a week.
That's fine.
But if you're over on holiday, you will. So the people that have properties on these resorts, if they're voting, then really they should consider having short-term rentals, because I guarantee you, if a resort doesn't have short-term rentals, property values will fall, amenities will close, which will reduce property values again. If somebody doesn't want to be in that environment, move off.
And make sure it's policed. You've got to secure it. If there is an issue with the property, report it. Because there are ways of, especially with the new law, effectively that property could be license removed. So if that's a continuous problem every time there's a problem with that. So effectively the owner doesn't care who goes in it. It's charging not a lot. They could have that license removed. So you can police it now with the new system, which you couldn't before.
Yeah. And that's a very good point, because someday, and quite a good point to me, is by policing it, you get free cars, right? Yeah. So I play professional football, and I've got 2 cars, quite a lot, yellow and that as well, man. I know got the third one, but the thing is, with having 3 cars, if somebody's tenant misbehaves, yellow card, again, red card, and then final. That's it. The license is gone. So you're right. It's if you have good rules and regulations in place in black and white, in the different languages. So in life, problems start due to lack of communication.
Yeah.
So if you have the rules and regulations that everyone can see, then you know what it is.
The majority of people are fine with it. Exactly. But the problem is a lot of laws are created for such a minority, and the majority are the ones affected. That's how it is. So hopefully we'll make it. And there's uncertainty in anything, no matter what you do. Uncertainty is once there's something in place, it's a lot more straightforward. I think it all gets. It just needs a bit of time. It's just that time.
I really like that distinction I just made. It's a really good point. I hadn't actually thought about it that way. I was thinking about it the other way. What's being highlighted, I guess, in the media, but the fact that what it's doing to the cities and people not being able to buy. Not being able to buy properties, young people can't get into the property market because of the short-term rental, and they're occupying a lot of space in Barcelona or Malaga or wherever it might be. But actually, that other way around, how does it affect resorts and the businesses within the resorts? I hadn't actually thought of that before. It's a really good. So I wouldn't imagine a lot of people have, because what is taking up space in the media is, of course, how it's impacting the cities and people buying houses. But no one's actually spoken about, well, what happens to the places that were supposed to have holiday rentals on there? Yeah, that's really good.
But it is the same in the cities, though, as far as, you still need that tourist van.
It just needs to be controlled.
€95 a day is the average tourist spending in Spain. Yeah. Now, how many people that live here spend €185 a day? But, you don't hear, there's those bars. And I want to be able to walk out like you. I live in the town. That's like, but I want to be able to walk out in winter and sit at a nice Spanish bar. It's not going to be there. They haven't paid some money in July and August. So it's going to be getting that balance right.
I think as well, and that, got a thing about the British media, because it's all negative when it comes to Spain. So, when the British media are talking about, you quite rightly mentioned, about cities, Madrid, Barcelona, there's a lack of housing for the youngsters. Now, no disrespect, but we couldn't afford to buy in Barcelona or Madrid because the price of the properties. But the problem is for the younger generation, is the Spanish government haven't put social housing.
Exactly.
And the British media are jumping on this bandwagon that the youngsters, the teenagers, can't buy a penthouse for 44 million in Madrid, which is.
And I mean, most Spanish people that you speak to really don't have a problem with anything to do with, short ago. They say the wages are too low in Spain, and that's what they need to focus. The government needs to focus on the wages. People can't afford the houses because everything is going up except for the wage.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, if you're living in England, not many people can afford to live in London.
It's terrible. And it's a mangy tourist place, whatever it is, you don't get social housing in those places because those areas are aimed at tourism, and tourism is an industry and easy money. So, but the government are at fault because when they did receive all the money from the sales of the properties, when they did the reform for the Olympics in 1982 in Barcelona and changed all that land into housing, they got a lot of money, from people buying them. And they weren't bothered who bought them. They just wanted to sell them for the highest possible price. If they don't reinvest that money in, a tram link that takes it, Barcelona's 8 kilometres deep. That's it.
Is that
A tram line of 8 kilometres and put social housing 8 kilometres inland.
Yeah.
And the workers get a very cheap, subsidised, perhaps, tram to work.
Yeah.
And you still get all the tourists. It just infuriates me.
Yeah. That's another subject.
Yeah. Got by the hand that feeds you. It makes that control. It makes the difference. Right. So get me on that one. We always have this question. So, we have a guest question, Paul. We always ask everybody.
Yes.
If you were to give one piece of advice to a potential, in this case, a property buyer buying in Spain, what would it be? What would that piece of advice be?
Well, I think, initially find a good estate agent that you can build a relationship up with and you can trust. Because that's the key, is that if you don't have a good estate agent to find the right location or the right property for you, then the rest isn't going to happen. So, it's look at the reviews of the estate agents, very easy nowadays online.
Yeah.
And, hopefully if you like what you've heard from myself, then contact us at chersun.com.
Yeah.
But, that's the key is to have a good property finder to help you and answer all your questions. Because as I say to all my clients, don't hesitate to ask me any question. There's no such thing as a silly question, because obviously you don't know the answer. Hopefully I do. Is that it's building up your knowledge, because the more knowledge you have, the more confident you will be of doing the next step.
Yeah.
So that's what I would
And
say.
so be honest with the agent, tell them what you want, give them as much information as possible, because they can only work on the information that you give them.
No, totally agree. There's, makes my job easy. And time you can't buy. That's one thing that we all know. You can't buy time. So why waste time? So the more knowledge that you can give the estate agent, and if you're going to an area and you don't like it, tell the agent straight away, because you're wasting my time and you're wasting your own time, more importantly. That's what I would say is time more.
Especially because people try to they haven't moved across yet. So they're going maybe across for 3 or 4 days. So if you can save as much time as possible, it's only going to help you in the long run. Definitely. Yeah. Great tip.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your website. Is that the best place to find you? Is there your ways to contact you?
Well, if you Google Chersun or Chersun Properties, then we're on all the main social medias like.
At the end of the podcast, we put an information sheet with contact details.
All right.
Put your details on there. And if anybody's got any questions that they want for us, you can email us at hello@spainfullyhonest.com.
Yeah. And I'll put all the information for Paul into the show notes as well. So that way you can just click directly on the link and it'll bring you direct to his website.
No, thank you.
Even easier.
Easily. No, thank you, Paul. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope you get better.
Yeah, well, next time I'll be able to come back with a little bit.
You'll just think escape.
She said to me, I'm not sure it was insult now, but she said to me, "Oh, it's good because it's where you've already got a lot of lines." Is that a compliment? I'm sure. I did say to her, "Well, there's never a supermodel, so I'm wrong."
I was going to say,
It was probably
Botox ball.
She's probably been very sarcastic, wasn't she? I didn't think you might say that time.
Yeah, props to Paul for coming on the podcast today because
Yeah,
I wasn't
I
sure if he was
wanted to.
going to or not. Yeah.
Yeah, look at
Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you for listening. And please don't forget to subscribe. We're on Spotify, YouTube,
Amazon Music.
Amazon Music. So please subscribe to those. It doesn't cost you anything. It just helps us get higher up in the rankings so more people will see it. The more people would see it, we can get more guests on things. So please, write us a review if you like it, or write us a review if you don't like it. I prefer if you do like it. It really helps, honestly. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bye.